This is WCM's Park Update, a weekly show covering the outdoor hospitality industry, hosted by Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. During each episode, you'll hear from special guests and campground experts on topics that will help your park flourish. WCM's Park Update is a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine.
Hi, I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground Magazine, and this is another episode of WCM's Park Update. My esteemed co-host is here as well, Mike Gast, and he's getting ready to move from Hawaii to Nebraska.
I am sitting out on my lanai. I'm sitting out on my lanai, soaking up the last of the sunshine before I have to pick up a snow shovel again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm down here in Missouri for the Campground Owners Expo in late November, and I was expecting it to be warmer here, and it's like 30 degrees. So I can't feel too bad that you have to move back to Nebraska. So, but you're gonna have to do
what you got to do.
Yeah. So, and our guest today is Zach Stoltenberg. Did I pronounce that right?
Very good. Perfect.
Pretty close. Okay. See, I'm getting better with the last names.
Spell it.
Yeah, I'm not going to spell it. And he works for an architecture firm, Clockwork. I guess, Zach, just tell us a little bit about Clockwork and what you guys do at Clockwork. I know I've ran into you at a number of different conferences, and
Sure.
You guys have been doing some pretty great design work, a lot of design work with new developments. So.
Yeah, so Clockwork is a general practice architecture firm and branding agency. And I've been with the company coming up on 2 years, and I lead our outdoor hospitality studio. So a majority of the work that I lead and the clients that I work with are glamping, camping, and RV resorts. And so we have a lot of different projects. We've got probably 20, 30 different projects across the country right now. And it's a mix, but that's sort of our core is outdoor hospitality. We do some boutique hotel, some, smaller keys, non-flag, non-branded hotel projects as well. And we're seeing a lot of demand from that traditional hospitality side that is now kind of interested in looking to how do we add glamping units? How do we get some vintage RVs, some Airstreams, some, van life sites? And so there's a lot of overlap in those industries. But for our outdoor hospitality studio, that's sort of the core of what we look at and the projects that we work for.
So what stage is your client usually at when they come to you?
It's really a mixed bag. We treat every client and every project as unique and one-off. So there's nothing about our process that's a one-size-fits-all. Part of our core values is that we really want to partner with the clients that we're working with. So we have a lot of people that engage with us even before they have land. And they say, we're looking at a couple different sites. I spent last week down in the hill country in Texas with a new client. And we went and looked at 3 different prospective properties that they were considering for development of a new RV resort. And, he asked me to come down and tour these properties with him and meet the realtors. And, we were there both to advise him on what we thought were some of the best sites and the best locations, but also to look at some of those bigger things. I think that an owner or developer doesn't always consider. How easy is it to get in and out of the site? What are the utilities that are available? What is the zoning that might be in place? How much of a challenge is it going to be to get a project approved? So, sometimes we get engaged very, very early on in the process. I've had other clients that have reached out and said, so we're through planning and zoning. We've already hired a civil engineer that has done a layout for us that we use to get through the city. But we've talked to some people and they, looked at our plans and said, don't build that. Please don't build that. This is all wrong. And especially when it comes to RV, there is, I would say, sort of a science behind it. There's a right way to lay out RV sites where it's easy for guests to get in and out. You've got adequate space between them. We've planned for appropriate utilities. And there's probably not a campground owner out there that doesn't have those 2 or 3 sites that they're like, yeah, we can never book those because somebody has to make a 15-point turn to
Yeah.
get in there. Or they've already said, oh, we'll park a park model, or we'll do something different because it's a bad spot. It's awkward, So we try to kind of look at some of the minutiae and the science and the fine tuning pieces of the design, because we don't want our campground owners to have any of those sites that are a bad site. And so we've had clients that have approached us and said, we've got a plan, but we know it needs help. Can you take a look at it? Can you revamp it? A lot of the campgrounds that we worked on that are existing, we'll go out, we'll do a site audit and evaluation with them, because those owners, they know their pain points. They know exactly the areas that they're falling short or that they need help on. A lot of times we look at existing sites that are ready to expand. They want to add 50 more sites or 100 more sites, or they need a bathhouse or a shower house, or they want to put in a pool or a water park or a lazy river, or up their amenities. And so we do a lot of different things, but I would say there's not a general rule of thumb. It's never too early and it's never too late for us to get involved in a project.
So there's been a lot of new faces showing up in the outdoor business now. Is the sophistication level that you're seeing from clients a bit different than the last couple of years?
I think there's a lot more, I would call it corporate or industry capital, these big real estate investment groups that they've been doing mini storage, they've been doing multifamily, they've been doing traditional hospitality or mobile home communities, and they're all kind of waking up and they're saying, hey, there's something going on with RVs right now, and I need to pay attention to it. There's an opportunity here financially that we think we could make money. And a lot of these developers, there's nothing more soul sucking than building your 15th mini storage site, right? And the RV industry is kind of exciting. I mean, it's kind of fun, and I think a lot of the developers are looking at, okay, this is an emerging market. It's hot right now. There's a lot of money to be made, but I think this would be fun to do one too. I want to do something different. So we're definitely seeing a lot of those faces, but I would still say half of our clients aren't big time developers. They're just average people, that maybe they have some family land that it's been in multi-generations, and they say, well, we're finally ready to do something with this. I've got clients that are inherited a park from their parents, and it's been in their family for 30 years or 50 years. And they're saying, we haven't really done anything to it for 20 years. And we know we need to make some updates and some upgrades, and we want to increase our nightly rentals, and we want to, turn this into something that we can hand down to our kids like our parents did for us. And so it's, again, we work for a lot of different kinds of clients. I wouldn't say that there's any one in particular, but no, I think the level of sophistication, especially on the investment and acquisition side, it's definitely gone up recently.
What, when you're doing these site designs and everything, what's some of the trends you're seeing as far as RV sites? And do you see a lot of people looking to mix in that glamping units with the RV sites, or are they looking for separate sections for glamping areas? Are they looking to combine them all into one section? I guess, what are some of the trends you're noticing on the amenities and accommodation side?
Well, when it comes to RV sites in general, I would say the one trend that I think we're helping to drive is quality over quantity. Just because we can fit 10 units per acre onto a site doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best thing. Especially some of the sites that are the most beautiful, like your background there, where you've got the water going right up to the RV sites. We're working with an incredible client down in Florida that's a large property that's on a lake, and we're actually doing docks at the RV site. So if you want to bring your bass boat or your fishing boat, you can coast right up, get out on your dock and walk right up to your RV pad. But it makes financial sense. I think it's a way to differentiate yourself as a new resort rather than just a campground. And when we break it down, say we cram 10 units per acre onto a parcel, and we can get maybe $75 a night for those tight, close spaces. Those 10 units, we have a potential to make $750 per day if we're 100% full. Now, if I took that same area and said, you know what, instead of 10 sites, we're going to do 6 sites, but every site's going to have a pergola, an outdoor kitchen, a nice dining table and chairs on a cobblestone patio area. We're going to do an outdoor fireplace on one end. We're going to put 50 feet between each of the coaches, so you're not slammed right up next to your neighbor. That's not a $75 a night site. That's a $125 to $150 a night site all day long. So even though I've lost 4 sites, I'm down to 6 instead of 10. If I'm doubling what my nightly revenues are, even though I got 6 sites, if I'm at $125 for those 6 sites, net, I'm still positive. Not to mention the construction costs. It's going to be cheaper to put 6 sets of utilities in instead of 10 sets of utilities. And when we look at who's our market, who is our target, who's our demographic, we certainly, there's always going to be a market for a 1 or 2 night guest that they are looking for what's the cheapest place in the area to stay. But I think one of the big trends in RV right now are the full-time RVers. And the average age for an RVer keeps creeping younger and younger, and we're seeing more families and kids. And so when we look at site design, when we look at amenities on a property, that's the guest that we want to capture, because that makes up over 60% of RVers today. So we are seeing big investments with nice swimming pools and splash pads and lazy rivers and slides and all of that. It's not enough to just say, oh well, the dog park's over there and we got a swing set over there. We're definitely seeing a trend in major investment in on-site amenities.
Yeah. So let me ask my favorite question. It seems like it comes up every show. E-vehicles, ERVs. Have you had to become a charging station expert all of a sudden?
Somewhat. But and this is something, and I shared it with you kind of before we started the recording. But one of the big things I think that has made us extremely successful in this industry, and to have such a foothold in really a short period of time, has been through our partnerships and the different people that we work with. And I've had conversations with EV manufacturers, with some of those companies that are producing them. We have current projects that have Rivian chargers, that have Tesla chargers. I have clients that said, you know what, we're not even going to go the full supercharger route. We're going to put an extra 50 amp plug in every one of our sites. And anybody that has an EV can come in and do it. So yes, it's definitely something that we are incorporating. I think the industry as a whole is still tentative. My view of it is, do you need to rush out and spend thousands of dollars upgrading your park and do that right now? No. But as you have work planned, or as you decide to make some upgrades or updates to certain areas of the park, definitely it's something you should be planning for. Right now, I'm thinking of one project in particular. We're going to build out about 30% of the sites with EV charging. The rest of them, we're going to run a conduit to a pedestal, and the rough in is there, it's done. And as the demand for EVs grow, maybe it'll be 5 years down the road, maybe it'll be 10 years down the road, but they'll be able to go and just pull a wire and put the plug in, and the panels and the sizing and the design of the system we're doing up front to prepare for EVs. And then we'll roll it out as demand, requires it.
So as the site mix on these parks changed a lot, are the days of 100% RV sites over? I mean, do you have to have glamping? Do you have to have cabins in order to make it work better?
I don't think so. I mean, I would say a majority of our projects are a mix. I think it was a couple years ago I think it was at ARVIC, the convention, that one of the large campground operators stood up on stage and said, if you're an RV park owner and you are not looking at glamping, you are on your way to going out of business. And when we look at the numbers, every year, even looking at the 2022 North American Camping Report this year, we've got a large number of campers in the United States and a small number of RV owners. And that number keeps growing. It's going up every year as the RV industry is booming. But the other 75% of campers in the United States don't have an RV. And when we look at the numbers, almost half of RVers last year had a glamping experience, and most of them said that they would do it again. So if you're not looking at doing glamping, you're leaving money on the table. You're limiting your potential customer reach. And I think that, again, there's so many trends. The industry is changing so fast right now. I think a third of people that stayed in an RV last year either rented or borrowed that RV. So, there are ways for people that don't own an RV to still get out and have a camping experience. But glamping seems to be kind of a lower barrier to entry. It's not that different. It's, especially if you're doing glamping accommodations the way they should be done, anyone who's ever stayed at a Hilton or a Ramada or a Holiday Inn would be just as comfortable staying in a nice, well-appointed glamping tent. And so I think it's a great way for park owners to reach out to a customer base, all those people that don't own an RV. And especially if you're in a really prime location, if you're in a good spot, a beautiful property, anybody would want to stay there, whether you have an RV or not. And so I think incorporating cabins, park models, glamping tents, we've done tree houses, we've done covered wagons. It's just one more way to reach a larger potential customer base. And it's another offering even for your RV crowd, because they're going to embrace that too. And I think that's maybe one of the big differences between the RV market and the glamping market. The RV market is really kind of from a management operation standpoint, it's really kind of a hands-off thing, especially today with technology, where people can get a text and their check-in, and they go to their site, they stay unless they have a problem. You may not even hear from them before they're pulling out and leaving. Whereas glamping is really focused on a hosted guest experience. So there's going to be a lot of FaceTime. They want that interaction. They want to meet and talk to other glamping guests and find out where they're from. They want to know, the inside track on where are all the best restaurants and where do we go and what do we do tomorrow. And so, there's a lot of, for as much similarities and overlap as there are two very different guest types. So to answer your question about how are we doing that, how are we incorporating those, typically I think we see more dedicated areas or spaces for glamping, just because the staffing that's required to do that, the housekeeping, the maintenance, and the management and operations of that. Glamping is definitely a more high demand piece of the park. But we are seeing RV resorts with bungalows or with coach cabins or casitas in them as a way to, if you are a full-time RVer and you need a little extra space, or you want your kids or your grandkids to come down and visit you. Hey, we're spending a month in Florida, but come down and visit us for a week. We'll get one of the casita sites and you guys can stay in the casita. We'll stay in our RV. So there's definitely starting to be some overlap in those.
Yeah. Well, we have to take a break for a minute to recognize our sponsor, and we will be right back. WCM's Park Update is being brought to you by Woodall's Campground Magazine. For over 5 decades, Woodall's Campground Magazine has aimed to provide park owners and operators with the relevant industry news they need to run their businesses more efficiently. As times have changed, so has Woodall's Campground Magazine. Besides just its print publication, which is distributed to more than 14,000 industry professionals every month, the magazine also reaches readers through its various social media platforms, including Facebook at WCM, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Woodall's Campground Magazine also offers a daily e-blast which highlights the top news from the industry. The best part, everything we do is advertiser supported and free to our readers. As the outdoor hospitality industry continues to grow at a rapid pace, it is important to stay up to date on trends and other relevant news. Subscribe to Woodall's Campground Magazine at woodallscm.com. Welcome back to WCM's Park Update and our guest Zach with Clockwork. And we were just talking about glamping, and we've talked a little bit about electric vehicles. I know on the EV front we have, and I don't know if you've heard of Amir Harpaz, who lives in Florida. He was at the RVIC convention, and he does something kind of unique where he puts so he has like the regular RV hookups at the back of the site, and then he has like 150 amp hookup at the front of the site for an EV vehicle. Is that something you're seeing more people kind of interested in doing, or are people mainly just keeping them at the back of the site for right now? How does that work for an EV vehicle when you have an RV? Obviously, you have to have some sort of extension cord or something, I would imagine.
So it's interesting you brought up Amir. He's actually one of our clients. We're doing some design and development work for one of the resorts that he's working on right now. And I think it's a great approach, the way that he's done it. The superchargers, really, when we look at EV charging, there's kind of 3 levels of charging. Your basic entry, lowest level charger is like what you would plug into any outlet. You might have just a regular wall outlet you're plugging in, and you're looking at like 20 plus hours to charge an EV off of one of those kind of level 1 chargers. Now, then you can jump up to a level 2 charger. Now, level 2 charger is like basically the same thing that you would run, a large air conditioner or your washer dryer. It's that big 50 amp outlet that you described. And charge time for a level 2 charger, again, depending on if you're starting from dead empty all the way up, but you're looking at more like 4 to 12 hours. So it's like a good overnight charge. And a lot of people have a level 2 charger in their garage if they own an RV or an EV. That's a level 2 charger. And then you have the level 3 chargers or the superchargers. So those are the extreme high voltage that you can go 0 to a full charge in 45 minutes to an hour. And most superchargers are attached to a network that's a part of one of the manufacturers, or maybe part of like Electrify America. They're building an independent network of EV chargers. But I would say for the most part, we're not seeing the superchargers. And I don't know that there's even really a good argument or reason to put a supercharger in an RV park. A couple reasons for that. The first one is, if you're part of a network, then you're essentially kind of open to the public for anyone to come in and charge. And I think, especially when you're looking at more of a resort style development, you want to kind of limit who's there. You don't want just every Tesla peeling off the road and coming in and filling up your charge stations because, hey, they found you on the Tesla network. And so, and for most parks, you're catering to your guests. And as we see more of the, especially the tow vehicles, or Ford's introduced the Lightning, Rivian has the R1T that's out this year. I think they're the first to actually deliver an electric truck. Fisker's got a version that's coming up. Tesla's going to introduce the Cybertruck next year. As we see more and more of these more capable EVs come on board, they're going to be embraced by the RV crowd, and there is going to be more of a demand there. But in most cases, those guests are staying with you. They're staying overnight. They're staying a couple of
Yeah.
days. So having an 8 to 12 hour level 2 charge in their site, that's more than adequate for what most of them are going to need. And I do think that the convenience factor of having it right there in the site, that it's not, well, I got to drive up to the store or the check-in building, and they've got 2 or 3 charging stations up there that are always full because somebody from the road has come off and is sitting there charging. I think that's a much better approach, and I like the way that Amir has approached doing that in his parks, and I think it's a really good example for other people that are looking to add EV.
Yeah, that Rivian truck at the ARVIC conference was awesome. That thing looked pretty sweet. But I liked all the storage. I mean, the way they have the way the whole truck operates.
The gear tunnel.
Yeah. So Mike, have you seen one of those Rivian trucks yet? You got to unmute yourself, Mike. Oh, I don't know if you can even hear me, but anyways, we'll just let him talk. Mike, you got
Yeah,
there.
I know. I pull the old guy thing. No, I haven't seen a Rivian out here yet, and it's kind of strange I haven't because it's so concentrated in Hawaii. There's so many electric vehicles out here. Tesla is you can't go three cars and not see a Tesla in a parking lot. They're just all over the place. Charging stations are rampant. It's a great place for electric vehicles because it's kind of hard to go more than 40 miles at a pop anyway. So you're in good shape out here.
You got a 300-mile range. You can drive around the island like 3 times.
That's right. That's why I tell my wife if she takes the wrong turn out of the driveway, she's going to be back in 7.5 hours.
Just go around. Just make one more go around.
Yep.
What are some challenges you face as an architect in the industry? I guess do you ever run into I don't know, park owners that have these ideas in place and they're kind of like, no, we want to stick with this, or you have to kind of break the bad news that it's not going to work, I guess?
Honestly, I would say probably my biggest challenge, my biggest frustration sometimes is getting folks to see the value in what we do. And I see it on the Facebook pages and the different groups all the time that, somebody posts, hey, I'm getting ready to build a new park. What do I do? Who do I call? And it's like, well, there's people that this is what we do and we can help you. And I think a lot of, I realize this is a niche industry, and we definitely have a big presence right now, but I think that's probably one of my biggest challenges, is getting people to understand that they don't have to do this alone, that there are people that are experts that have done this, that know all the things that they're going to need to do and know the right questions to ask, and they don't have to go it alone. They don't have to navigate planning and zoning and building permits, and they don't have to be experts at doing all that. That's what we're here for. That's why we have a job. That's why we have work to do. And I think, probably one of the other things that I would say that it is a challenge, not so much listening, because we take a very unique approach to our client relationships. When you said, well, do I have to tell somebody that this isn't going to work or that isn't going to work? And yeah, we do. But I think one of the things that sets us apart and makes us different from a lot of architecture firms is that we listen to our clients. When we approach a project, it's not our project. It's not our resort. It's not our campground. It's not our glamping site. We're there to be partners and to be advisors. I always say it's my job to ask the questions. We could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this. What do you think? What do you want to do? Well, I don't know. Well, have you thought about how this might impact your guest experience? Or I like that, but that's probably going to cost 3 times as much as these other 2 options. So, if you really care about that, then let's carve out a place in your budget for it so we can make sure it happens. If you weren't that married to it or tied to it, maybe there's another option or something else that we could design or come up with that would get you kind of the same thing, but on a budget or something that fits, with the overall plan that we're trying to do. And so I think that is one thing that makes us very unique and our process very unique, is that, it's our clients' vision. It's their resort, it's their plan, it's their goals. We're there to help get them across the finish line and help make it a reality.
So what do you think happens to the pace of change? Are we going to keep going at this level? Is the interest going to stay this high in the next 2 years?
I think we're going to see a bit more stabilization. I would say over the next 2 to 3 years, I think, and the industry is doing it to itself, because what we're seeing is, especially in new developments, people are building out to a much higher level, and we're not hitting saturation yet. But what's going to happen is a lot of the existing campgrounds that are out there, those clients that I described, that they've had a park was built 30 years ago. It still has 20 amp service in all the sites, or partial hookups with a dump station somewhere on the property. Those are going to be the sites that are going to be fading, because when guests have an option of staying at, the new hotness with the water park and all these amenities, and it's the same price as this other site that's, a couple miles down the road that has no amenities, it doesn't have full service hookups, it has, aging infrastructure, smaller sites closer together. We're going to see a shuffling in that. And it's going to be the older, more dated campgrounds and resorts that haven't upgraded, that are really going to start feeling the pinch when the slowdown happens. Right now, even those old 30-year parks that haven't had anything done to them for 25 years, they're still at 100% capacity because the demand is there. And so, my message, if I could convey anything, it's, if you're one of those park owners, start reinvesting now while your revenues are high. Start putting some of that money back into upgrading your utilities, your infrastructure, building out adequate Wi-Fi. I don't know how much this is a pet peeve, and they reiterated it at OHCE a couple weeks ago. Wi-Fi is not an amenity. Wi-Fi is a utility. It's a must. You have to have high speed and preferably fiber internet through your resort. It's not something you can tout as, oh yeah, we have high speed internet. Well, good, you should. Everybody should. If they'd stay at any hotel or any other place, that's a given today. Nobody checks into a Holiday Inn and says, oh, do you have Wi-Fi, or expects to have to pay extra for it. That's a given. So, starting to reinvest in some of those things, just to keep your park current with the expectations that are there, that's going to be really, really important.
I think, getting ready to wrap up the show here, I think it's amazing what the architects do, because I couldn't have the vision that you do, Zach. All I would do is turn these parks into parking lots for RVs. So you guys do some great work on the architecture side to blend the natural elements, and make it look like it's not a Walmart parking lot. So
dominoes. I call them dominoes. The lines and lines of, all the coaches just lined up and facing. Now we try, and again, that goes back to that quantity versus quality, right?
Yeah.
If we can get a little bit of a curve, a little design, some relief spaces in there with some landscaping, or break it up with some of the amenities, whether it's a dog park or a pickleball court, just something. Again, we're not building resorts. We are crafting a guest experience. Yeah. And we're working with our clients to deliver, because that's what you're selling. You're selling the memories, you're selling the stay, you're not selling a piece of ground.
Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you, Zach, for coming on the show. And Mike, I guess we'll see you in Nebraska next time.
Yeah,
So-
I'll have the ear flaps on next week.
and it'll be a lot chillier. So thanks everyone for watching, and thanks to Zach again for coming on. Very knowledgeable, and everyone have a great rest of the week. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to WCM's Park Update, a production of Woodall's Campground Magazine. Join us for a new show each Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for daily news and updates, and subscribe to our news feed on our website at woodallscm.com. Show hosts are Ben Quiggle and Mike Gast. Executive producers Rick Kessler and Alex Burkett. Copyright 2022, G&G Media Group.